So while I was kind of like researching, I guess, for this video, I remembered just how good the VHS movies used to be, and it kind of made me really sad. Because like, what the fuck happened? I will say, I do think that VHS Beyond is better than... VHS Beyond is definitely better than like VHS Viral, and probably 89 too. I saw VHS, I watched it on Shudder. I had like a free trial thing, and I'm kind of gonna talk some shit about it. But first, we're gonna go through and explain the different shorts. Just for clarification, this is the 7th film in the franchise, the 7th installment, if you will. They have already okayed an 8th, and it does sit at 114 minutes. That's the runtime. I was admittedly very confused on the frame story. Typically with these films, they have like some type of an ongoing narrative. Like, there's something going on to connect all the shorts together, acting as like a frame story, and then all the segments or the shorts fit inside of that. So with this film specifically, it kept confusing the shit out of me, I'll keep it real. But the frame story was called Abduction slash Abduction? We're just gonna call it Abduction. So I'm reading the fandom page because I didn't even write anything for this part because I was very, lost. In 1950s, a family of Chinese immigrants arrived in Toronto. They purchased a house from like the Victorian era. In 1980s, mom and dad die, and they leave it to the eldest son, who puts the house up for sale, and then he disappears. During his time in the house, he was basically like haunted. He never said it was aliens, but like it's hinted at being aliens. And he kind of like sets up all these cameras to film. In the frame story, it's like a mockumentary. They're making a documentary about the situation, and it talks about how like they found the VHS tapes. Some guy on Reddit like found them at like a flea market. There's a lot of Reddit in horror movies this year. I don't know what happened. I feel like the Hell House LLC, the most recent one that came out either this year or last year, I don't remember, also was very like Reddit centric, so I thought that was fun. It kind of like proposes it as like, oh, crazy tapes, they're on Reddit now because I found them, I'm gonna post them. And then the mockumentary is about that, and it's like interviewing all these different like experts on aliens, because the whole movie is about aliens. That's why it's called Beyond. Now my favorite VHS shorts are the ones that aren't supernatural, if you know what I mean. I prefer the ones that just kind of look like weird, lost, like true crime tapes. Those are my favorites, typically. When I was going back, I was looking at all the old VHS shorts, and I actually love The Sick Thing That Happened to Emily When She Was Younger. I completely forgot about that one. That one was so good, dude. And the one with like the cult in VHS 2, I think it's called Safe Haven, but I don't 100% remember. That was so good. Like, why can't we get more of that? Anyways, so you have the frame story, it goes into it, and then it cuts to the story Stork, which I wrote my notes down for this one. It's basically you're following like the not dash cam, the body cam of a bunch of cops. There's a bunch of infants in the area that have been kidnapped. One of the cops is actually, one of his kids was missing, which like is kind of fucked up that they put him on that. But they also have a rookie filming the whole thing with like an actual camera, so it looks really good. Like, it looks very clean. It doesn't look like a VHS, but it looks very clean. There's also a lot of like lighting, so you could actually see usually a lot of these kind of movies, they're very grainy and dark, and that's because they have a low budget. This one had like quite a big budget, so it's very well lit. You can see the monsters very well. So they go in, and there's all these like weird zombies. They get a call to a house, There's all these like weird zombies. Some of them have like chainsaws and like all that kind of stuff. They kill them and they just get right back up. But they run upstairs and there's like this weird bird creature, hence the name. It's called Stork. But there's like this weird bird creature that has been kidnapping the babies and is like regurgitating the dead people into the babies. There's also like this big like weird like meteor looking thing that I assumed the bird like came out of. But they literally do not explain anything in any of these, so we're just kind of shooting in the dark here. But yeah, they kill it, and then the last like scene is like it's like a photo and they're like holding it. Okay, so the next one I dubbed Paparazzi Story because I didn't know what the names of these short films were going into it, but it's actually called Dream Girl. It takes place in India. And I noticed usually in these movies, at least one of the shorts is like a foreign language film, which I actually think is really cool. It kind of made me think of, I don't know if anybody else used to be a Doctor Who fan, but there was kind of an ongoing joke where it would be like, oh, he can go anywhere, but it's always like Europe. So it kind of made me think of that. There's basically a pop girly, and the main characters are paparazzi, so they're trying to take pictures of her, and they end up hearing about where she's like filming a music video, so they go. They kind of hint that it's about to kind of be like some like weird spiritual kind of situation, supernatural situation, because one of the guys asks the other guy like, where did she even come from? And the other guy's like, oh, she came out of nowhere, it's like she's a witch. And then she goes into a trailer and she gets yelled at by her like boss guy, but the paparazzi guy is hiding in her closet, and there's like he puts his hand in like a bowl of brains, like there's some like organs in her closet, and he accidentally touches them and he kind of like freaks out. She hears him, so he comes out and he's like kind of trying to like, don't listen to that guy, you're perfect just the way you are, you can do anything you want. He says like, oh, you're literally like a god, like with how famous you are. Anyways, she's like, holy shit, I am literally a god. She tries to steal his face. That's the ongoing thing. She goes out and she kind of like carries it, like she kills a bunch of people, and it's like very like over the top. She wants his face. She like rips people apart. She like pulls her face off. I will say that one looked really nice too, because they put it on the set of like a professional music video shoot. The camera's still rolling like while she's killing people, so it cuts back and forth between like the paparazzi cameras, but then also like the very nice like music video cameras. So it does look very nice in terms of like being very clear. All of these are very clear. It looks like a real movie, which I kind of think that the charm of the VHS franchise was that they looked like actual found footage. These don't, like, at all. Just a little sad. Hey guys, as I was editing this, I realized that her name is Tara, and she is a robot, making her Tara the android. So, don't know if that means anything, but I thought it was funny. And then it leads into Live and Let Dive. Very annoying characters. So this one is shot on like kind of like GoPros. It's about a guy and he's celebrating his birthday. Him and his friends are gonna skydive, and they're up in the plane, and as they're up in, it's a plane. They're up in helicopter? I think it's technically a helicopter. But anyways, as they're up in there, there is they see a UFO go by, and then it kind of like hits into the side of the helicopter and it takes them down. But they already have their stuff. They're literally about to jump right before it happens. So they have their parachutes and stuff, so they just kind of pull them, but it's very like, they're falling unprepared. So there is kind of like oh, is he gonna get it? Is he not? He gets it. His friend that's strapped to his back dies though, and it's pretty brutal. Like the way that they like hit the whole thing. So there is some really cool gore with them hitting the ground and like finding their like dead friends. After this point, it literally is just them running away from the aliens as they're chasing them. I didn't like the alien design in this. This does happen during the day, so it is very like well lit, and the cameras are nice, so you can see everything. But I didn't like the way that they look, so I didn't really care. He kind of tries to like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and like get in this guy's truck, and then the guy's like, "Get the fuck out of my truck." And then he's like, "No, there's an alien behind me." And then the guy like shoots him, and his hand gets all fucked up. But then the guy gets killed by the alien, so it's all fine in the end. It looked very nice, but it was fine. It was boring. And then I will say this next one was not boring at all. However, it has nothing to do with aliens, so I give it points for not being a fucking snooze fest, but it does lose points because it has nothing to do with aliens, and the whole thing was that they were like, this one's about aliens. The tagline for this movie was something really cringe that almost made me not want to watch it at all. The tagline for this movie was VHS Beyond, no safe space. And I know it's alluding to the fact that they're like in space, but one, they're not in space. It's just alien. They're on the Earth, but it's also, it just made me cringe so bad I almost didn't watch it. Anyways, Fur Babies, let's talk about it. This one was directed by Christian Long and Justin Long, so it gets points from me because I love Tusk, and that's, Christian Long is the guy who turns into a walrus in Tusk, so there's definitely a theme going on here. Anyways, so this movie, this segment, short film, whatever you want to call it, is basically, they have like a YouTube channel. It's basically like PETA. They're animal rights activists. They have a YouTube channel. They investigate, and there's a lady who runs this like doggy daycare center, but she's like kind of like really fucking weird. They're going over there undercover because she stuffs her dogs after they die, and like, you know, it's just kind of like this weird like, hey, maybe don't do that. She also, like, anyways, they have reasons to believe that animal cruelty is happening in the house. So they go over and they investigate it. But it's just, like, random people. It's not, like, cops or anything. They're making YouTube videos. So they're filming everything through, like a spy cam, like, on the dog's carrier. The lady realizes that they're filming, obviously, because they're super obvious about it. And then she takes them downstairs. The lady who owns the place is called Becky, by the way, so I can stop calling her the lady. Becky takes them downstairs. When they get downstairs, her brother, I think, some family member, chloroforms them and kidnaps them. And basically, you find out that Becky in the basement has been creating like human-dog hybrids. So there's some really cool body horror going on, because she's like sewing like dog jaws onto the humans. There's a lot of like really cool, like, you know, like she's like cutting into their hands and like making them like the way the dog's paws, or like that weird texture. She's like doing, you know, it's some cool body horror stuff, I will be honest. Their friends try to save them, go into the basement, and then you kind of find out that she's done this before, and she's like basically like abused and brainwashed humans before into behaving as dogs. When their friends come down to save them, human dog hybrids maul them. Some guy like delivering a package, and the dogs try to eat him. They eat him. So watching, it gets points for me. One, for the body horror of like, you know, changing your body, but two, also like watching a human being like maul another human being is kind of crazy. It was very gross, so it got points for me, but it has nothing to do with aliens whatsoever. Hello, I'm interrupting again, and you're on my webcam, so you're really up high. Ignore that. The weird angle, whatever. I don't know if anybody saw this movie when it came out, but this short in particular made me think of Be My Cat, a film for Anne, which is like a found footage movie about this crazy guy who's like abducting women. It just made me think of it. Yeah. In between these, it does kind of go through like the abduction story, but it's just kind of like, it's kind of like comical in a way. They'll be like, this UFO expert, and then it'll just be like a guy with a podcast. So I was not paying attention to that shit, I'll keep it real. But they kind of like, they talk about aliens in between. They do kind of connect it to the Cold War at one point, and the idea of the aliens like being there during the Cold War. Hello, I'm back. I put this in my notes and I completely forgot to mention it. The only part of the frame story that I genuinely really liked was towards the end. There's a scene where the son is filming himself with a camcorder, and you know that he is like about to die, and it just made me think of it had like the same feeling of dread as like the first time that I ever watched like Mungo. Like it had a very similar vibe as like the phone camera, where it's like the footage of like the last time that they saw her. So I kind of thought that was cool. But then it cuts to Stowaway, which was my favorite segment of this movie. It was directed by Kate Siegel, and it was written by Mike Flanagan. Yeah. As my fucking voice cracks. Yeah, so Mike Flanagan is the guy who made, I think he made The Haunting of Hill House, but I've never seen that. I really liked the book, so I didn't watch the movie, or the show. But more importantly, in my opinion, he made Gerald's Game, which is a crazy fucking movie. I actually recommend Gerald's Game if you haven't seen it. But basically the plot of Stowaway is, so there's a girl, I'm seeing here that her name is Haley. She's making a documentary in the California desert about like UFO sightings in the sky, and the UFOs are just lights. So she's looking for lights in the sky, and she sees lights forming in a circle in the sky, and then one flies off. She's camped out underneath in the desert. She sees them in a circle, and then one flies away. So she gets in her car, and she like chases it, and she finds like this big kind of like, it's like a reflective, like really dark, like you don't really know what it is, but she's able to go inside of it. So she gets in there, and you immediately, the sound design in this was actually really good. You can immediately tell that it's like some type of like organic, like living being. She's like, you know, touching it, and like you can hear like the footsteps, and it's very like moist and fleshy in there, but it's got like floors and walls, and she like touches them. There's like these really fine like strings, and she touches them, and she cuts herself, and these little like sparkly thingies, they almost kind of like cells, I guess, they come down and they fix her up. I noted that it was making noises. It kind of sounded like a clicker, like from The Last of Us. But then the ship ends up taking off while she's still on board. And when it like kicks into light speed, it like throws her all around, and she's like, she gets pretty fucked up. So the little guys, the little cell thingies, come down and they heal her, but they don't have her DNA. So they're basically healing her with the alien DNA. But the thing is that she's not meant to live. Actually, I guess this one does take place in space, because she's in space and she's not meant to live in there. So it's like tearing her apart, and then they're like healing her, but they're healing her in like with the alien DNA. So she's basically like suffering, and then she's being healed, but because she's healing, she's mutating. And it's really like depressing. It also, visually, it looks gorgeous. They did a really good job with this one, like cinematography wise. It is darker, but I thought it looked really good, personally. But they end up healing her to the point where she's basically like an unrecognizable creature. And then I noted, so the woman is a mother. She has a daughter. You know this because as she's filming, she accidentally tapes over like her daughter's birthday party or something like that. So you know that she's a mom. And earlier in the series, or in the short film, she's saying something like, the stars that we see in the sky are actually like not what's happening right now. Like we're seeing the past. Basically, she says something along those lines when she's up in the sky, because she's traveled at light speed. There's a moment that I realized, I don't know if like the average person realized or thought about this, but she will never see her daughter again. Because even if she hypothetically does get back to Earth, by the time that she manages to get back to Earth, like, she won't be able, because of like the time difference that she was talking about earlier. So that made me really depressed. I cannot lie. Yeah, this one, so I made a rank. My favorites of these shorts were, my favorite one was Stowaway. I thought that that one was the one that I cared about the most. I also thought it was the most visually interesting and story-wise interesting. My second favorite was Fur Babies, because I thought that the body gore was really interesting. However, nothing to do with aliens, so it does miss a couple points. And then I thought the Dream Girl was pretty cool. Again, I thought that the gore was kind of cool. Also, I just like women that are like, I like female villains. I think we should do that more. One of my favorite, this is like everybody's favorite VHS clip, but the Siren one from VHS 1 with the girl that they're trying to hook up with, and she like her face and she, you know, tries to kill him. That's one of my favorite VHS clips. So I like the crazy lady trope. I think it's fun. And then Stork, I thought it was fine. It looked good, but I really didn't give a shit about it. The monster was really cool though. I will give them points for that. And then my least favorite was Live and Let Dive. I did not give a shit about any of those characters. And also I didn't love the monster design, so it had like 0. There was nothing going for it for me. A problem with these movies is that I feel like in order for horror to be effective, you have to somewhat care about the characters, but because they only have like 20 minutes per short film, you don't really get a lot of time with them. And I think the one girl being a mom helped me to like care about her. Like, I cared about what happened to her because like it would indirectly or directly affect her child. So it was one of those things where it was like, it was super quick that they mentioned it, but it was enough for me to be like, oh man, I hope she gets home. While like the rest of these, I didn't really care about them at all. While I do think that this movie was better than 85, I do think that the VHS franchise would benefit a lot from slowing the fuck down. VHS 1 and 2 were phenomenal. VHS Viral, I don't even remember that one. I didn't like it very much, I remember that. And then VHS 94 was, in my opinion, the last good VHS. Don't get me wrong, there are good segments in all of these movies, but I think that the last VHS movie that was like consistently good, like that there were more good segments than bad, was VHS 94. So I just think that they really need to slow down. While I do think it's really cool that they're bringing in a lot of like new directors and they're trying to like, you know, get a lot of like different people out there, I think that's really cool. But I do think that they kind of need to like slow the fuck down and like actually give these people time to come out with fleshed out ideas and make good short films. Because right now, like, it did just kind of feel like a compilation of a bunch of random shit. So I think that they would really benefit from like actually structuring these movies properly, like how they used to. Yeah, that was my main takeaway from VHS Beyond. I had a good time watching it, don't get me wrong, but like comparing it to the shorts that were in like VHS 1 and 2 was like completely different. And I think that they kind of need to bring that back because in my opinion they were significantly better. Anyways, I'm probably gonna head out. I hope you have a nice day and goodbye.